Halifax Regional Municipality is shutting down 5 of the 11 designated locations for homeless encampments, including Victoria Park and Grand Parade in front of City Hall. Statements attached to tents say they'll be closing effective immediately and that the areas have been de-designated. People sheltering in those locations, along with ones at Geary Street in Dartmouth, Saunders Park in West End Halifax, and Correctional Centre Park in Lower Sackville, are being told to be gone by February 26th. The statement reads in part, "The Province of Nova Scotia and service providers have identified indoor sheltering and supportive housing options and will be working together to support residents in encampments to move indoors." Rick Young says he's been at the Grand Parade encampment for almost 6 months, and he's suspicious of the timing.
I think it's a power move by the provincial government to get the shelters pulled. He just spent $3 million on a shelter that no one's going to. They spent another $3 million on a shelter that no one else is going to go to. The only way to get it built is getting everybody kicked out of their tents. That's the only way it's going to work.
Young says he doesn't want to move.
I'm not going to no shelter. Worst comes to worst, we'll all sleep on the streets. I'll sleep on Spring Garden Road if we have to. We're not going to sleep in no shelters.
What's wrong with the shelter?
What's right about the shelter? What's wrong with shelter? You go there, they had rules in place that don't make sense for anybody with any kind of addiction. It's not supposed to be able to smoke after 11 o'clock, be in bed by 12:30, be up by 9 o'clock, get out. That's not a shelter. That's an emergency shelter. That's a shelter is a place where you go and you stay. You mean, if it's stormy outside, you really want to kick out at 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning?
Officials with HRM spoke with reporters just after the notices were delivered. Mayor Mike Savage.
Designated sites have always been intended to be a stopgap measure until better fixed roof options were available for people who are homeless. And we now have a variety of options in place, and Max can speak to those. We should never accept it as normal that people spend winter in tents in our community. We should all share the objective to get people inside and connected to supports that will better serve them in the short and the long term.
Max Chauvin is HRM's Director of Housing and Homelessness.
We know from a lived experience consultation that we did in August 2022 that almost every respondent we spoke to says they desperately want to be inside. People cited a shelter, a hotel room, an apartment, anything with 4 walls and a roof. We also know that a shelter is not an option for everyone. And so the province has confirmed that they have space in other facilities and places so that if someone is unable to use a shelter, there is an option for them and something for them to consider.
Staff and support workers will help pack up tents and people's belongings to move them to other locations, including the Forum, Waverley Inn, mini homes, as well as the soon-to-open pallet shelters in Lower Sackville. Chauvin says this is all possible because of the efforts by the Province of Nova Scotia.
HRM would be remiss in not recognizing them and their network of dedicated service providers who have done amazing work in supporting people and creating new options for those that are sheltering outside.
I'm Sheldon McLeod for SaltWire.